So for this example, let's press Alt V and activate wireframe. And I'm going to use D in Boxcutter to change my shape over to circle, and we'll just use this circle as a jump off point to create a cut in the middle of this face. And we see that the solution that Blender gave us for edges to make the connection were just kind of whatever. So basically, if we were to press Q and we add a bevel, we see that whenever we press 3 that the edges just kind of go their own way. Normally things would be a little bit more random with the solution, so let's move our circle up to something that's a little bit more unacceptable. So maybe something like that is what you would generally expect when you're getting weird with your bevel modifier. But even something like this can be managed to an extent, so let us press Control A for visual geometry to mesh and just go in edit mode and begin the cleanup process. So this is something that is probably part of every 3D artist's job as far as getting in and dealing with the mistakes that happen whenever automatic computations just don't work out. It's just a part of life. You know, these things will be better someday. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just optimistic for the future, I suppose. But just by getting in and consolidating the points in these areas and giving a little bit of stress relief, we're able to get this to something a little bit more acceptable. So in regards of converting this to a subdivision capable mesh, let us just dissolve that particular edge. I don't know why that was happening. We can just grab this edge and press Control B to bevel it to give ourselves additional edges, but we only really need about one additional edge, where we can just form this connection and use Control R to add an edge loop to form this connection and another edge loop to form this connection. So I'm adding an edge loop by just pressing Control R on my keyboard, and I'm just sliding things around with G key in order to just basically relax the surface a little bit. However, I could always press Alt X in order to just mirror this over to the other side using Mesh Machine, since I have it enabled at this time. And we can just begin solving this area as well. So in regards with the amount of loops on the side, I'm a type of person who will just go with a particular amount and then just try to make that work out. However, in this case, if we are just going for absolutely perfect conversion, we can just keep adding loops as needed to make this particular solution work. But because of the bevel modifier, we're able to get a pretty nice starting point with getting in and performing this conversion, even though it had a slightly rocky start. In fact, for this particular area, we're just going to delete these faces, and a way that I'm used to working with these sort of things is I will just use F2 in order to calculate it all the way across, and then I will fill the top end and then finally fill the bottom end. So we see that I got a little bit preemptive. We want to jump one more, then add a loop, fill this in, pressing F a couple of times, and now we've basically converted this Boolean cut into a subdivision mesh. So if I press Control 3, we see that we've now subdivided the mesh. If I press Alt V to turn off wireframe, this is our result. So because of the topological questionable choices that were made in this particular area, we see that there is something that's going to need to be reevaluated. So while I'm not a big fan of having subdivision show in edit mode, I'm a big fan of using subdivision for just a moment and then going back to object mode and admiring the result. Let's press Control R to add in a loop cut. And with this particular loop cut, because we have vert merge on or auto merge vertices, we can just select these two edges and maybe even Control click all the way over here, GG to slide, which will automatically merge these. And just by dissolving this, we now have an all quad solution happening with this area, which sometimes, depending on the particular area, I'll go with a tighter or more loose solution. In fact, let's slide this area up just to tighten this relationship with the top. And if we press Alt V, we can look at what we have on this side versus what we had initially, and we could have just left it at that, but depending on our level of perfection that we're aiming for, we could actually get in and actually deal with these poles and get rid of them in this state, since we are dealing with a symmetrical mesh. And now you're actually looking at it with a more idealized solution. So just a basic example of subdivision conversion in context of just converting a Boolean over to something that's able to survive subdivision on a basic level.